The case that shocked modern Germany. Armin Meiwes was not a man hiding in the shadows of society. He lived openly, worked normally, and participated in online forums. His case did not emerge from chaos or neglect, but from a disturbing collision between isolation, fantasy, and consent. A lonely childhood. Meiwes grew up in emotional isolation. His father left early, and his relationship with his mother was intense and controlling. He spent much of his youth alone, retreating into imagination and fantasy rather than forming real connections. Escape into fantasy. As he grew older, Meiwes developed elaborate inner worlds. Isolation did not fade with age. It deepened. Fantasies became structured, detailed, and increasingly disconnected from ordinary social boundaries. The internet as a catalyst. Online communities gave Meiwes something he had never experienced before. Validation. Understanding. A space where extreme thoughts were not immediately rejected. The internet did not create the fantasy, but it gave it form. Searching for connection. Meiwes was not looking for chaos or random violence. He was searching for connection on his own terms, for someone who would accept his inner world rather than challenge it. The idea of consent. One of the most disturbing aspects of this case is the role of consent. Meiwes believed that mutual agreement could transform fantasy into reality. This belief would later become central to legal and moral debates. Online encounters. Through forums and private communication, Meiwes began interacting with individuals who shared extreme interests. Many conversations ended as fantasy. One did not. When fantasy meets reality, eventually, Meiwes encountered someone willing to go further than discussion. What had existed safely in imagination now crossed into real-world planning. Preparation without secrecy. Unlike many criminal cases, Meiwes did not hide his intentions in a traditional sense. He documented thoughts, communicated openly, and believed he was acting within a mutual agreement. A private setting. The events unfolded not in public spaces, but in isolation. A controlled environment where outside interference was unlikely. This privacy allowed the fantasy to fully manifest. Moral boundaries collapse. What makes this case unique is not only the act itself, but the reasoning behind it. Meiwes did not see himself as violent in the conventional sense. He saw himself as fulfilling a shared desire. The aftermath. Following the event, Meiwes returned to routine life. There was no immediate pursuit, no public alarm. The case did not come to light through eyewitnesses or immediate investigation. Discovery through confession. The truth emerged later, not through chance, but through Meiwes' own actions. His openness would ultimately bring the case to authorities. A case without precedent. When investigators began to understand what had occurred, they faced a legal and ethical situation without clear precedent. Questions of intent, consent, and responsibility dominated the discussion. Public reaction. News of the case shocked Germany and the world, not only because of the act, but because it challenged fundamental assumptions about crime, morality, and autonomy. A society forced to question itself, the case sparked intense debate. Can consent justify extreme harm? Where do personal freedoms end? And how should the law respond to acts that defy conventional categories? The investigation begins. Once authorities became aware of the case, the investigation moved quickly but cautiously. There was no clear template to follow. Evidence existed, documentation existed, but the motivation behind the act challenged every conventional assumption investigators had. Evidence without denial. Meiwes did not deny what had happened. He cooperated, provided material, and explained his actions in a calm and structured manner. This lack of resistance confused both investigators and the public. Legal confusion. Prosecutors faced an unprecedented dilemma. Traditional categories of murder did not fully apply. Consent, documentation, and intent created a legal gray zone that German law had not anticipated. The first trial. In court, arguments focused heavily on consent. Defense emphasized mutual agreement and absence of coercion. Prosecutors argued that consent could not override fundamental protections of life. A verdict that divided opinion. The initial verdict reflected uncertainty. Many felt the sentence did not match the severity of the act. Public reaction was immediate and polarized. Public outrage. Media coverage intensified. Commentators questioned whether the justice system had failed. The case became a symbol of legal inadequacy in the face of modern, unconventional crime. Retrial and reassessment. A retrial was ordered. This time, the court focused less on consent and more on responsibility. The narrative shifted from agreement to accountability. Final sentence. Meiwes was ultimately sentenced to life imprisonment. The ruling established that consent could not legitimize extreme harm. The law drew a clear boundary. Psychological interpretation. Experts described Meiwes as emotionally detached but not delusional. His actions were driven by fantasy, control, and a desire for connection rather than impulsive rage. The role of isolation. Isolation was identified as a key factor. Years without meaningful human connection allowed extreme fantasies to grow unchecked and unchallenged. The Internet question. The case reignited debate about online spaces. Not as causes of crime, but as environments where extreme ideas can find reinforcement without opposition. A shift in legal thinking. German law evolved as a result of this case. Courts clarified limits of consent and reinforced the state's role in protecting life regardless of individual agreement. Why this case stands apart. Unlike many crimes rooted in anger or desperation, this case was rooted in structure and belief. That made it hard to understand and harder to process. The lasting impact. The case left a lasting mark on legal systems, public discourse, and cultural understanding of consent and responsibility. Final thoughts. Armin Meiwes did not act in secrecy or denial. He acted within a belief system that collapsed under scrutiny. This case remains a warning about what can happen when isolation, fantasy, and misplaced logic are allowed to replace human boundaries.